Look Outreach is underwritten by the generous support of Munter Enterprises. Family owned and operated since 1972, integrity is important, as our family name is on every project. Our word is our bond. Munter Enterprises. Just build it.
Welcome back, everyone. It probably comes as no surprise that very few communities in New York State experience growth. One of them is Queensbury. And since my wife and I live up in that neck of the woods, I see it all around me all the time. And joining me today is the Queensbury Town Supervisor, John Strough. Welcome, John.
Well, welcome. Thank you, Jesse.
Very nice to have you here. Outside the fact that John and I are both car junkies, we both love politics, we both care about the community. So I asked John to come in because I thought it'd be important. We got an election coming up, and I want people just to, get to see you again and get to know a little bit more about you. One thing that always stands out to me, and you don't hear it said very often, is that for a better part of 37 years, maybe 38 years, you taught at Queensbury High School.
Yeah, I taught at Queensbury for 37 years, starting in 1974, retired in 2011. I taught high school social studies.
Social studies, you know what? I think that was my major. I don't know what you do in social studies when you graduate, but maybe that's what happens to us, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And you got involved in politics. They kind of crossed over, didn't they?
Well, yes. I mean, originally I helped found the Citizens for Queensbury group back in the late 90s. And we fought some zoning efforts to make zoning more practical, more responsible. The Indian Ridge development, which was originally proposed to be 200 units, we got that down to 75 units. It only has one access out to Aviation Road, by which I just put the new roundabout out there, which now helps that community get in and out of the world during the AM and PM peaks. And also the Cracker Barrel, the 4 acres between the new Aviation Road and the old Aviation Road. Right. I helped preserve that as a buffer for those 120 homes so that they're not so negatively impacted by commercial development just to their south.
Well, you know what? Anybody will tell you that the real art in managing the economy and managing development is really that balance between the quality of life and green lighting, maybe, projects with, of course, other members of the board and whoever's involved to make certain that the community continues to grow. Now, you were a councilman, I think, better part of 10 years, and I may have the math, I think that's when I first met you, by the way. But math might be a little off here, but 3 years or so as Queensbury Town Supervisor.
Well, yes. Well, I started off on the planning board for 3 years.
Okay.
And then I was a councilman for 10 years. And I have been almost 4 years as the town supervisor for 17 years of municipal experience.
Right. And of course, I don't know, the reason I mentioned the teaching thing is that I think that that's amazingly valuable experience to be a teacher. Maybe a little bit of a lost art in some circles, but I think there's nothing like being a teacher. I think that's a very amazing
Well, I love
career.
teaching, and I also love being part of this whole community. I'm very involved in a lot of nonprofits, both historic-oriented and those that are social-oriented. And so I try and help them out as much as I can and being very involved with them in many ways.
Now, you're running on the Democrat line.
Yes.
And the complexion of the town board, 4 other supervisors on the town board, each one responsible for a ward, and then, of course, John is the town supervisor for the town of Queensbury. I've always thought there was a nice check and balance there. You've got Republicans on that board, and you're the lone Democrat, but that does open up the opportunity to get that check and balance and get that opportunity for negotiation and dialogue.
I think that's very important, that whenever you have an organization, that it not be dominated by any one particular entity, that you have a nice mix in there. And yes, I am the only Democrat on that board.
We, of course, broadcast every one of those town board meetings. A quick look out goes to Store Tech and Mark Shaw and his gang. But the thought there is that I watch the interaction between you and the other board members, and at times they agree, at times they disagree, but there's always a pause. There's a respect that's underlying it. That has a lot to do with the demeanor of the meetings and also the way they're run.
Well, I, as the lone Democrat, have and surrounded with 4 Republicans, have managed to work to do a lot of very positive things for the town of Queensbury.
I want to hit on a couple of points. I was on looking at your materials, John. The budget, I noticed kind of a 10% reduction in budget. Now, without getting in the weeds on numbers and stuff, how's the budget?
Well, for general operations, the tax rate was 60.2 cents when I came in 2014.
Okay.
And this year it's 53.9. Okay. So the tax rate during my term in office has been reduced 10.5%.
I got it. Airport, where do you stand on the airport?
Well, the airport brings in $10 million of economic activity to our area. And the runway length of 5,000 feet does not accommodate the business jets with full loads at standard temperature and pressure. The new wings, which are designed for airspeed performance and for fuel performance, are just not very conducive to a 5,000-foot runway. Okay. A 6,000-foot runway is what many hundreds of the other airports are doing all around the world. I think we should be too. I mean, take the Gulfstream 650. With a full load on standard temperature and pressure, that needs 5,850 feet.
Yes, right.
So a 6,000-foot runway is the new standard, is what all the airports are going to. And yes, it may cost about $10 million to put that in. But we make $10 million a year off of the airport from economic activity that is generated by that airport.
Yes, so you
and this
support
is money I want to point out that you cannot spend for any other purpose other than to improve airports. So if we don't use it, there's going to be another airport that's going to put a runway extension in, and they're going to see the economic benefits from that. Not
got
us.
it. Boy, you feel passionate about that one, John.
Yeah.
Hey, Decker, last time you were on, big controversy, Dave Decker, and the audit and whatnot. I've always wanted to ask you this question. The election is in the way now, and I'm sure after the election it'll rear its head again. Would you have done anything differently in that situation?
There's nothing I would have done differently. We've gotten various audit reports at various times, and one of the hot items is one audit report we got in 2016. And that was in October. But if you go to July of that year, the audit report said the town was doing everything perfectly and fine. Then there was a critical audit report, and it was critical of nothing to do with my time as supervisor. It dealt with another time and the way the town handled the matter and a former supervisor.
That's right.
So, I mean, it had nothing to do with me. So I'm not getting the controversy around that. I'm sure we'll get through it in the end, but in any event, those issues that were described in that audit, I'm the one that got them repaired and got the town and the Department of State and the Lake George Watershed Coalition back on their feet and going again and got the grants satisfied.
Got it. Hey, one last question, John. Why are you involved in politics?
I love doing good things for the community. I mean, I did the roundabout. I got the eagle from the city. You know, the eagle sat on top of the Civil War monument, and it was deteriorating. And Jack Diamond, mayor of Glens Falls, and I had talks. I said, well, it's sitting in storage. Is there any way that I can retrieve that and put it in our town hall? And he worked with me, and he said, yeah, let's do that. So I got the eagle in, and the Blind Rock, which is a historic icon for the area. It used to be at the big, huge crossroads, pre-European, and was noted as the border between the French and the British to the south, and many other events occurred around that Blind Rock, so it's a historic icon. I got that saved. But these are the things that I like doing for our community, good things for the community.
Great, John. Thank you for taking the time to come in. Best of luck in the election, and I'll see you on the other side.
All right, Jesse,
okay,
thank you.
Good to see you, John. To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.